Paul Charles is Chief Executive of travel consultancy, the PC Agency. I asked him what's behind all the disruption.
Fundamentally, this is because airlines and airports are not able to hire enough staff as quickly as they want to. They've been hamstrung, of course, because they were waiting for the government to clearly lay out when travel restrictions would be lifted in the UK earlier this year. And they were only told really at the last minute, with several days' notice, that things would be opening up again from March. So if you put yourself in the position of an airline boss or an airport boss, you discover that things are going to open up in March. Only then do you have the confidence to start hiring as that consumer demand starts to pick up. And that's why we're in the position now where several weeks later, there simply aren't enough staff in place because it's so difficult to get hold of staff to work in the industry to deal with the consumer demand that is there.
I wonder, though, why airports and airlines and everybody involved basically weren't better prepared for this, because obviously lots of people have been waiting a really long time to take these holidays. They should have seen this coming, shouldn't they?
Well, they're used to having good processes in place, and frankly, the airports and airlines have been relying on the UK government to process security passes quickly, or far more quickly than they have been doing. And of course, everyone working in an airport has to have a security pass, or cabin crew have to, or pilots have to. So suddenly there's been huge demand to reapply for these security passes, and it's taken the government some time, often actually twice as long than it would do pre-pandemic, to process those passes. So the staff who were recruited on time by airlines and airports simply couldn't start work until they had those passes in their hands. And that's a problem that still exists today.
So staff shortage is one problem then. Is there anything else in particular? Is Brexit having an effect?
Yes, one of the issues for the industry is that traditionally it's relied upon European citizens and European workers coming into the UK to help plug the gap in some of those jobs at airports and on airlines. And sadly, many of those European workers have simply not been forthcoming since Brexit altered many of the rules, especially for access, for passport or visa access into the UK. So as a result, a huge swathe of the workforce has simply disappeared. They haven't been available to hire. And therefore, the airlines and airports have been struggling to recruit as quickly as they might have done.
Are we now at a point, do you think, where the right systems have been put in place to potentially stop this happening again?
I'm afraid this may last for some weeks yet. I think it will be sorted out by the time of the next peak period in July, when many people travel, especially families. But it's not an overnight solution. We're not going to see this fixed very quickly because those security passes still have to be given out, the workers still have to be hired, and at good pay rates. And one of the problems in the industry, of course, is that in a high inflation environment, such as we're seeing, the wage rates have to go up. And airlines and airports are hardly making money at the moment and haven't done for 2 or 3 years. So they're under pressure to raise their rates to find enough staff and attract them.
Just a quick word on people whose holidays have been ruined, who've been caught up in these staff shortages and cancellations. What, if anything, can they do?
Well, it's really sad, of course, for the thousands who've been caught up. And there is some advice I can give, which I'd recommend for people in the next few weeks. First of all, if you haven't yet booked, try and book a flight for early in the morning, between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., because then you're likely to be on the first flights of the day and therefore nearer the front of the queues, if you like, before everyone else arrives later in the day. Secondly, pack as little as possible to take on the plane. If you can avoid checking in luggage, that's ideal because then you don't have to go into a check-in queue. But also, pack as little as possible for your hand luggage. Then you're not going through a longer processing time in the security channels. And I think finally, if you've already booked for the summer, actually be reassured. The vast majority of flights are taking off. They're taking off on time. They are going. It's only a tiny percentage, sad as it is, that is affected by the current wave of cancellations.